Hello and welcome to yet another hockey or Canadian NHL prospect
Watch
pool, I guess.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today we'll talk about the Winnipeg Jets and their prospect pool. So, as per usual, we use hockeywriters.com to see where they list off the rankings, and this is like at the beginning of the 2021-2022 NHL season. So, as at this moment, they're somehow, and you and I were literally just talking about it, I'm a
Yeah.
little shocked. They're ranked 18th of the NHL. I think it might be because like the depth of their prospect pool, like they're top loaded, but then the rest is just goes downhill.
I think so.
Potentially. I
Maybe.
don't know what it is though. But the Jets have some really good prospects. Cole Perfetti is going to be a good offensive player in the league. I definitely think good enough to be a top six forward in this league. Ville Hyonola, I believe, is going to be a good offensively minded defenseman.
Yes. I can see that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And then Chaz Lucius was the best goal scoring, one of the top goal scorers in the last draft, and he fell to Winnipeg, and they were ecstatic to get him. So, but those three are good prospects, man. Like those three would crack the top five in most Canadian teams' prospects. If we're gonna be honest,
Yeah.
Like, they're good prospects. But and then, yeah, somehow they have them ranked 18th. Like, do you have an idea as to why? Why do you think, in your opinion, that they're
I
only
think
18th?
just like you said, it's just they're top loaded, and then everyone else just kind of. It's basically like they're like, let's say like the A tier. There's like the three that we mentioned probably, and then it just basically goes down to like C or D.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would probably also say maybe their goalie prospects aren't as strong as most teams.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll probably have an effect on why the hockeywriters.com or whatever think of them as being 18th in the league.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you said, Cole Perfetti, definitely a really, really good prospect. Hyonola is also very good. Even someone like Samberg is pretty good too. So it's just, yeah, I think, like you said, high loaded, like top loaded, and then it's just falls off kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking again. Hockey Writers is telling us that like they have like 5 untouchables in there. Like I guess untouchables air quotes kind of thing. But like one of them's a goalie in Mikhail Burton, but he has like a sub 900 save percentage in the AHL last year. I'm not sure how he's doing this year, but he's not projected to be a superstar goalie. I think he's supposed to be a good backup.
Right now, he played 11 games,
Mm-hmm.
has a 2.56 goals against and a .895 save percentage.
Yeah, so that's not translating very good numbers up here at all. He might be a backup up here. He might not even make it to the NHL with those numbers, to be honest.
No, but like it's gonna be tough with, like it's gonna be tough to crack the lineup with having Hellebuck and Comrie ahead of you.
I mean, that's the thing though. When you have like we spoke earlier about the Maple Leafs and how like they don't have a goalie back. That's where their weakness is. Like, okay, but Toronto doesn't actually, like, no offense to Jack Campbell, but Toronto doesn't actually have a superstar goalie in front to hold like the prospects back.
Yeah.
Like Winnipeg does. It's Hellebuck's crease. It's Hellebuck's team.
Yeah.
Until he
Hellebuck is
retires.
only 28 and Comrie is only 26, so they're still gonna be able to play for a long time.
Yeah.
So honestly, I would probably think.
And to say that Mikhail Burton is in their top 5 prospects, I guess that's probably why they're 18th. Like, that's not again, he's still a top class athlete. He's still a good goalie. I don't think he's NHL caliber, though. Just looking at his
especially
numbers
like
right
you're
now.
gonna be sitting in the minors for like a long time.
Yeah.
Because Hellebuck and Comrie are still young. Especially Hellebuck is like an amazing goalie. You're basically trying to beat Comrie, and that's going to be tough because Comrie is still very good. So
I think Burton's ceiling is a backup goalie, which is still a good ceiling. He's still a good, but he'll be a competent back, kind of like a Brossois kind of thing. Because Brossois was never going to be a starter.
I would honestly say, like, if I'm Burton, I would. How old is he? Like,
he's still pretty young. I think he was.
23.
Yeah.
With 2 years left in his contract, I would honestly say, like, after those 2 years, I would probably see if I can get signed somewhere else because you're not going to be playing for.
I mean, that's going to be tough, though. I don't think, unless you're Arizona, I don't think anybody signs him. He's just not showing the numbers.
You're not, you have to beat Comrie for that to be on the lineup. So I would say either like play outstanding during the in the minors, and hopefully next training camp you play really well and steal a spot.
Still his backup, yeah. I think he'll be back. Like I said, he'll be back up in the NHL, I think, and I think that's his ceiling. He's not a starter. Definitely no. Next is Dylan Samberg. He's actually a decent prospect. He's not an elite. He's a defenseman, a left shot defenseman. He's not like an elite offensively minded kind of guy, like a Makar Hughes kind of guy. Mm-hmm. He's a big dude though. He's 6'4".
He's the 6'4".
He's 6'4". Yeah, 215 pounds. He doesn't put up the points, but he's a physical dude and he's a shutdown kind of guy. So he would be a good like complementary shutdown defenseman in like either the second or third pairing. So he'd be a good prospect to in the future. He's not going to put up elite numbers by any means, but he will be a good defensive guy. So that's not a bad prospect there. Chaz Lucius out of the U.S. United States Hockey League, the developmental program. Sorry, he was the 18th overall pick in the 2021 draft, and he's got really good hands, man. He's projected to be really strong, a good forward in the sense of like a shooter, like a sniper. He should be pretty good, and he's playing in the NCAA right now, so he won't play for the Jets for a few years. But this is now where we're getting to like a legitimate prospects. Like this kid is projected to be like elite offensively, and like elite offensively as in like putting up goals. Like I wouldn't put him like a Cole Caulfield, but like maybe just under Cole Caulfield offensive ability. You know what I mean? And I don't think he's a big. He doesn't seem to be a huge guy. So, and then you have these are kind of like Cole Perfetti isn't playing on the team yet, so I'll start with him. I think he'll be a solid second line center, or even like I don't know if he'd be a third line center because I don't think he's like gritty enough to do it because he's still a pretty small dude himself. I think he'll be a top 6 winger though. And then, but it's gonna be tough because the Winnipeg Jets have very, very deep forward group.
Yes. Like I would say out of the Canadian teams, like just the forward group, like
top to bottom,
balance wise, yeah, that's definitely like the best.
Yeah, I would agree. I would wholeheartedly from like, especially if you put their third best to their 14th best forwards. If you don't include their top 2 forwards, 100% they are the best because I still think like Austin Matthews is better than any one of the Jets players. And Marner, when he plays well, is better than all of the Jets forwards, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Same with McDavid and Draisaitl. And then I think Pettersson, when he's playing how he's supposed to, I think he's better than all the Jets forwards. But like fourth line, there's no better fourth line than what the Jets have. Third line, there's no better third line than what the Jets have. Second line, yeah, probably. First line, I mean, if you have McDavid, Draisaitl, and Puljujärvi, that's the best line in the league, right? But yeah, so cracking that top 6 on the Jets team, that's gonna be tough because that is a deep forward group. But I think Cole Perfetti is good enough to do it. But this is they're developing him the perfect way. He's a 10th overall pick in the 2020 draft. They're developing him in the perfect way, not forcing him, letting him develop down there. If there's an injury, you call him up and he plays. You know. And then lastly, we have Ville Hyonola. And then you have Ville Hyonola playing for the Jets. I think he's in the Moose right now. I'm not entirely sure. But he's projected to be a top 4 defenseman. Like not elite, but like a good, serviceable top 4. More offensively minded. The thing is, he's a left shot as well. Which is actually similar to the problem the Oilers have. All of our good defensive prospects are left shot. Yeah.
And he's doing really well in the AHL too with 12 points in 15 games. So
for a defenseman, that's huge.
For a defenseman, that's huge.
Yeah. How are the you're showing me you have a really good website, Elite Prospects there. How are the Jets prospects doing?
11 points, 5 goals, which is still pretty decent in 14 games. Let's see here. Chaz Lucius playing in the NCAA for University of Minnesota has 8 points in 10 games. So it's still pretty good. One prospect that they have playing in the KHL right now. Dimitri Rashevsky. I probably butchered that name, but oh well. He has 28 points, 16 goals in 32 games. So that's still pretty.
So the KHL or the MHL?
KHL.
Okay, well, that's not bad at all.
That's not bad playing in the KHL.
KHL's a good league, man.
Yeah. So, like, from what they're playing right now, their prospects are doing pretty well. Like, for their teams that they're playing for. Still doing very, very well.
I notice in their list, though, I think they're missing what a lot of other teams have. Is like they're missing like bottom six grinder type of prospects. Which, in my opinion, to build a team, you need to develop 2 or 3 guys that can fit in your bottom 6 to be on cheap contracts.
Yeah, because you can't have a lot of big contracts.
Yeah, because like the second, like when Perfetti graduates, he'll get good money. When Hyonola graduates, he'll get good money. Right? Like you need like those like a Jujar, like a $1 million kind of contract, or like who else is like who's been really good at developing. Detroit has been exceptional. Like Franzen, like they were smaller, like $1 to $2 million guys that would just they played the style that needed to be done. You know what I mean? Like this Winnipeg is missing like a legit checking bottom 6 forward in their prospect pool. They don't seem to have many of those. But anyway, it's interesting. We'll see how they continue to do, the Manitoba Moose, and see how they continue to develop. But anything that you want to add in regards to the Winnipeg Jets? They're ranked 18th. I think it's way too low.
They're way too low for like what we've been seeing in there.
They have a better prospect pool than Toronto, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
probably Toronto bias, maybe. Even though they are only ahead of them by 1.
No, like listen, I try to like I don't like Calgary and Toronto, but it's mostly because of the media. Is honestly why I don't like them. But like Calgary's a good team right now. I'll be the first to admit it. Toronto is a good team right now as well. I'll be the first to admit it. But like and we'll touch base on Calgary in a later date. But like Toronto prospect pool isn't great. But that's what happens when you trade all the guys,
and
right?
When you always go buy now, or win now. I mean,
win now. Yeah. So that's why exactly right. But that also being said, I think if Winnipeg wants to make a trade, I don't actually know if they have, because I don't see them trading either one of Hyonola, Perfetti, or Lucius. I don't know if they have the prospect pool to be able to make trade deadline trade anymore. Yeah. So that'll be interesting. Like they're gonna have to give away picks, but that sucks because they don't have a lot of they don't have a lot of big prospects, right? So
no, you could win now. But then what happens if you're like out of money and then you have to trade your big players? Where
you can't build for future success with that. You're absolutely right. So. Anyways, I think that's it for the Winnipeg Jets this episode. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.